Hello, how are you? I hope you're good. Welcome to the second video of the little series of me recommending the books according to Hogwarts houses. Not necessarily only for the people in those Hogwarts houses, but for people looking for that particular vibe in books. Obviously this is super subjective and just by my judgment and how I see houses and how I see the books. As I mentioned, this is the second video, so I have already done Gryffindor Rex. If you're interested, if you want to check that out, I'll leave it in the description bar. But I will try to keep this brief and as brief as I can. Let us get into it. As you can tell from the headband and the colors that I tried to do here, I am doing the House of Hufflepuff. For this one, I'm mainly focused on loyalty, a fight for justice, equality, friendship, and real life stuff. I just always felt like Hufflepuffs would have their feet on the ground, you know, they would be very connected, very grounded, would recognize what truly matters. When I feel, you know, Ravenclaws can get lost in the research, looking for future answers and stuff like that, Gryffindors can really get lost in the moment and in their dreams. I feel like their heads are always in the clouds. And Slytherins are really ambitious and goal-focused, and it's very much like to the point. And I feel the Hufflepuffs are the house, in my opinion, that really understand the realness, you know. That in mind, those are the books that I have selected for this. I think a lot of them will surprise you. Feel free to disagree with me, this is just how I see it, but as always I'll ask you guys to leave a top one suggestion that you think would a book that really represents Hufflepuff in the comments down below to let each other know. But in no particular order, let's get to it. So first of all, there's The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chamber, one of my all-time favorite books. This is a book about a crew that work in a ship that's like creates gem stations, if I remember correctly. This is a sci-fi that people who do not really liked it as much complained and pointed out that not much happens. And they're right. This is not a fast-paced, like pew 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 type of sci-fi at all. This mainly, for me, focused on character development and interspecies behavior, even deals with what is sentient in regards to a lot of different species, but also artificial intelligence. So I just thought this was all about understanding human connections and understanding different cultures and how you adapt to welcoming someone from a very different culture into your daily routine when you're living in very confined space of a spaceship that is not like the biggest one. There's so many interesting alien species in this. It's so interesting to read about and to delve into. It's one of my favorite books. I highly recommend. I really think it would be a perfect Hufflepuff read. Next up I actually have a manga, and this is Orange. This is a chunky one, but I think this is a tome, so there might be like smaller volumes available. This is a very sad story where the main girl gets a letter from her future self saying that she needs to be more cautious about this friend because in the future reality where she sent the letter from, they have committed suicide. At first she thinks it's like a cool joke or something like that. It's all, by the way, happens in like the first couple of pages. I'm not spoiling anything. But as the letters sort of like come true of what they said she would happen like on normal days, she takes it a bit more seriously, and then it's about this group of friends trying to protect and see if they can do anything about this boy. Obviously not telling him because communication is not a great idea. And I will mention it because it would bother me if I didn't. I think it's very problematic how much emphasis and how much responsibility this plays on people around a person with suicidal thoughts and ideations. Is the fact that they never really addressed how this was portrayed, how it was almost put on there as a responsibility, because you should never be or should never feel responsible for another person's well-being. You can try, but you can never predict what your input is gonna be and what it's gonna influence. So anyway, also very obvious trigger warnings for suicide topic as well. So that one was a really massive problem I have with it, but I am not about the cancel culture, and I can appreciate the topic being breached, especially in the manga format. I thought the story in itself was very sweet and really important. It really brought, I think, especially because sometimes we get chapter swaps between the perspective of a friend and a perspective of a person suffering with depression, and those swaps of the same situation and how it was from one perspective and the other were I thought they were so accurate and so insightful, so I really do recommend this one. And obviously it's all about friendship and it's all about taking care of each other, and that is why I think it would fit into this category. Sorry I went a little bit of a tangent there, but I think if taken differently it could send a really bad message if I don't point it out, so I didn't feel right not mentioning it. Next one is actually Miss Bourne trilogy, or well, the first era trilogy. There's more books, but Miss Bourne is by Brandon Sanderson, and it is all about equality, and it's all about freeing people that are oppressed. It's a high fantasy, so it has a very different magic system that's all based on different metals, and there are Mistborn who can consume traces of those metals and then use it for different powers. I think the magic system is very interesting. I thought it was so easy to read for high fantasy. Would highly recommend for anyone who's wanting to delve into the specific genre. But in a nutshell, it's all about these rebels trying to rebel against the current government, at least for the first one. I think I could twist this particular book to fit a lot of houses, basically all of them, but I have decided on Hufflepuff because of the whole overlaying justice and equality theme that is going on here. I thought it was a really good fit, so there's that one as well. Next up is Seven Husbands of Evelin Hugo. This one is by Taylor Jenkins Reid, the author that really blew up recently, I think. And this definitely fits in for the more of realness of life and working hard and knowing what you want and doing what you think is right, but also struggling big time throughout it. This is a fictional biography, so it's not like a biography, but it's of a fictional Hollywood actress. If you have a similar taste to mine, you might be thinking like, what the hell, this is completely not the cup of tea you usually drink. But trust me, the audiobook for this, first of all, is amazing. I could not stop listening to it, and it was so engrossing from the very beginning. Somewhere in the middle you just forget that it's not a real person. I thought it was so real. I will also say it includes a lot of issues that people dealt in the 50s and 80s with homosexuality or just not conforming to heterosexuality, especially in public's eye, so it really dealt with that a lot. There's that one. Speaking of realness, the next book is definitely not something that is very fun to read, but I think it did emotions justice. I think it really got the feels and the vibe of grief specifically very well, and that is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This is about our main character who had a boyfriend that he was really attached to and a very big part of his life, and this is him dealing with his passing. But as you read on, there's hidden layers and hidden difficulties that make him dealing with the loss even harder. It's almost like a withdrawal, but also grief and a lot of that, and just figuring out what you are and how to move on from all of that. It was very raw and very accurate. What I imagined that kind of situation was, there was a lot of attention to detail to the emotions and the complexity of it all in that particular book. Next one's gonna be a weird one, don't laugh too much. But obviously I would recommend the show, but this is a book recommendation. I don't know if you guys knew this, but they do comics for that, and that is Charmed. I know, but I had to include it. For me, Charmed, again, it could obviously be sorted in a lot of different houses, but because of the family bond and the sisterhood and the kick-assery, but there are comics for this, and the art styles, I think the art style swaps from one bit to another, so different stories will have different art style, which is interesting. Maybe not my favorite, but if you finish watching this and you want something to continue on, it's a bit of a cheat maybe to include this here, but I really wanted to mention it. Another one, I think a lot of people will agree with me on that one, but that is Book Thief. I think this is a very heart-wrenching story about a young girl who's growing up during Second World War, and she is there witnessing all of the injustice done to Jewish population, and she sort of experiences them firsthand when they agreed to hide one in their home, and it's a very, very sad story. And again, I think it just deals with loyalty and human kindness and just perspective and going against what you are told to do, and for the very right reasons. And I think that is very Hufflepuff, and I think this would really be a good read. I think you will agree with me on that one. And then the last one I think is the one that a lot of people will disagree with me, because when you think about it, you'll instantly think Ravenclaw. Listen, I have my reasons, okay? So, Strange the Dreamer, obviously it doesn't help that the cover is so Ravenclaw aesthetic, is about a librarian who is very much a dreamer, according to his name as well, and believes in stories that others write down as fairy tales, but it just all sort of blows up in their faces. It's about lost cities and about loneliness and about finding people and connecting with people and just traveling and experiencing life, man. And the reason I am sorting this, because obviously then when you think librarian and thirsty for knowledge and researcher, you obviously go to Ravenclaw, which is fair enough. I just think that Laszlo is more of a Hufflepuff than a Ravenclaw, and because whenever there's credit due, he'll be happy to not have it. Whenever there's a situation, he'll do best for everyone else rather than himself. And I do think that Ravenclaws and Hufflepuffs can be very, very similar. I just think that him in particular is just so Hufflepuffy. It's like, he has the kindest heart, he really does not care about his own credit as long as he knows what is right and what he did. And I think as much as Ravenclaws would also love to research and delve into all of these myths, I think credit, when credit is due, rightfully so, is very important to Ravenclaws, where he is just like, I just want to do it for the sake of it. Hope you guys understand what I'm coming from. And that actually concludes the 8 recommendations. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think would be a best Hufflepuff read down below from the books that you've read. Thanks so much for watching. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!